It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, November 4th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that does not enjoy losing a game and a goalie in the same day.
It's a rough day.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 plus years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Still searching for a great candidate for your company? Don't search, just match with Indeed. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, of course, I'm not sure whether to start with the good news or the bad news here.
Just pick one.
So we're going to start with, to get us off to a good start, with the Matvei Michkov Rookie of the Month news for October. Tremendous accomplishment, 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points in those 11 games. He led all rookies in goals, tied for the most points. He had the most power play goals and points, and was leading or tied in a bunch of other stats as well. I think it is really interesting, the timing of that announcement, just because he has struggled a little bit recently, right?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. But this is still a nice thing to get. He's going to be, one of the top Calder guys. I don't know if he'll win it because, again, he's going to go through a lot of changes this year, probably more than Logan Stankoven's going to have to, and maybe somebody else that I'm just, not mentioning right this minute. So, but hey, this is a great thing for him.
Yeah, I think so too. Getting off to a good start was always important for him. And we knew it was going to be a learning season for him, an
Yeah.
adjustment season for him, and there were going to be ebbs and flows. And this is just an ebb part of his season right now, I would say. He's got 4 games now without a point. He has had reduced ice time in the last 3 games. If you look at his 3 most recent games, 15:36, 13:56, and 15:15 versus the previous 3 games. He was at 21:33, 17:45, and 21 minutes 3 seconds. So they have reduced his ice time a little bit, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, right?
No, I mean, they're attempting to kind of show him now that he has to play a different way. My feeling was in post game when John was talking about, hey, he's positioned here, kind of up high in the offensive zone, and we want him over here. My feeling was, well, you've had 3 months with the guy. Why is this just coming up now? And then a light went off in my head, like, oh yeah, I remember why. Because that first, 3-4 weeks of the season, they kind of let him just do his thing like he was playing last year. And now they're telling him, no, Matvei, this is how you have to do it. So this is a big adjustment for him. And I don't think he should have had to go through this adjustment in season. I think he should have just been asked to play this way the entire time and let his offense come out when it comes out.
They
now
catch up to it. Yeah.
catch up to it. Instead, now you're putting him in a spot where now his offense is being reduced because the ice time is being reduced and the chances are reduced a little bit. And so, I don't know. I feel like it's in reverse.
Yeah, it's a really good point, I think. But I do, I respect this process, and I think
Sure,
this
he has to learn. There's
19-year-old.
no doubt.
Yeah, so I'm not worried again, and I think that they'll figure out this middle ground of letting Matvei be Matvei and also working within this system and those line mates to have a functioning offense. So we'll get there. I think it's just a little bumpy right now.
Yeah, one other thing. I know we're going to get into a bigger subject next segment, but for this segment, for Michkov, I would like to see somebody work on him because that shot when he's going down the left wing, no goalie is going to fall for him shooting short side, just him skating and then eventually shooting, right? But if he had some shot deception, then maybe you could get the goalie to flinch. And I think showing him tapes of guys like Austin Matthews and some of the great guys who are great at shot deception in the league could really help him. And I'm going to guess that that isn't happening right now.
Yeah, we'll see. I think, he does like that shot in the slot, and, I think people can see that coming a little bit too. The other news, which is the bad news in a lot of ways, is the Sam Ersson injury. And of course, he came out of the game on Saturday during the first period. At first, we thought it was an equipment issue, but then it turned out it was an injury. We found out it was a lower body injury. Don't have much more information as of recording. Elliot Friedman says he's going to be out just for a week, but with goalies, injuries can be fickle and you just never know, right?
You don't know. I mean, it was a freaky thing. We saw the skate blade get off his skate, knocked off his skate with a shot. Maybe when he tried to push off after, when that was off, that's what did it. So maybe, that's the injury part of it. It's fine. I mean, he did go off under his own power, but I've seen guys do that too and be out for a little longer. I think a week is okay if that's what it is. If it's longer, look, the Flyers weren't built for this. And my issue all along was, hey, we knew that goaltending was different than last year, and Torts had no problem saying that too. But now the issue is, the difference now is this lack of confidence in Fedotov and elevating Kolosov, and it's like he's not ready to be elevated. And so, I'm not going to be critical of his play because I don't think he should be in this position. It's hard to learn at the NHL level, and he just doesn't have a lot of games under his belt. I think that's a horrible trial by fire, and I think they have to put Fedotov back in. People are going to be like, oh, no, Russ, he stinks. You can't do that. But you have to do that to help the young guy. You can't just throw him into a bunch of games now. If nothing else, it has to be even.
Right. And I do think that Kolosov handled himself very well in relief here, especially coming in cold in an afternoon game.
Yeah, I didn't love the
Uh,
first goal, but he came in cold, so that's fine.
yeah, I think that all things being equal, he played very well in a very tough game when the Flyers were struggling offensively, and he had a lot of action down his end. And the Bruins were on a mission after getting shellacked in their previous game. So, I think he did very well. The problem is the lack of scoring, right?
Yeah,
And
it's going to be a big pressure point for him every time he's in the game, every time.
right. And so if you look at even, shooting percentage and all of that, the fact is it's a combination of shooting percentage and shot quality because you look at the numbers like on natural stat trick, even the expected goal differential at 5-on-5, it's only about 4 additional goals for the season. And if you look in all situations, it's only a 2-goal differential between expected goals and actual goals for the Flyers. So even if they scored every goal they were expected to score
It's not
statistically,
enough.
it's not enough to move the barometer here for the Flyers in scoring. So there isn't an easy solution here. It's a combination of the shot quality and the finishing here.
Right. I mean, again, I could say shooting coach a million times, and the Flyers haven't done it. So that's my shooting coach thing about missing the net, because that's what John talks about. He also talked about, with all the block shots, how he feels like that could fire up a team and get him going offensively. I feel the opposite. I feel like it sometimes takes you out of your breakout because you're blocking a shot. You don't know where the puck's going to go. Then all of a sudden, if you do get the puck, now you have a disjointed kind of breakout. What do
And
they
it
have?
collapses your defense. If you're in shot
It does.
blocking mode, it collapses your structure.
Right. So what did they have? 30 last game? Something like that. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
you can't keep doing that. It's not, and I get it. I think John feels like, hey, they get confidence from that. It fires your team up, and then they'll get offense out of it. And I don't believe that that's how this team's going to get offense. I think,
So they had 24 in the previous game and 19 against Boston.
oh, it was only 19. Okay, I thought it was much higher.
Mhm.
I thought I heard a higher number. Okay, so 19 was better than that, but I think there has to be a happy medium between the shot blocking and the breakout.
Yeah.
And we know that they have breakout problems. So I think you have to really look out for that. You know, you almost want to say, I don't think everybody on the team should be looking to block a shot right away. If you want to say sealer, you know, if there's like two main shot blockers, I'm good with that. And if somebody, because they're on a power play, has to do it, okay. But on five, like I just feel like there's a time and a place, and I've said it before, and you've said it before, and I think that's part of it. I don't see enough set plays, or if I'm seeing set plays, it doesn't look like set plays because they're not working off well, and that would come off the faceoff. I don't see enough of that in the offensive zone. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I certainly see that, especially like the power play not converting has something to do with like the face-offs and getting set up as well. They only had 2 shots on goal on 3 power play attempts, and they
Awful.
also allowed 2 shots on goal on the over the course of those 3 power play attempts as well. You could see they gave power play 2 a little bit more time this time around, which is
Yeah.
the right way to go. It looks better. Andre looks better out at the point,
Yeah.
but I think like something has to change there. But you could see it at 5-on-5 too, as well. But there's so much more to talk about with this game. Some players that actually stood out in a good way despite the loss. And then John Tortorella had some interesting theories about how the team was playing and how to improve it. We're going to take a look at what he said and if we think he's on the right path coming up next. PrizePicks is the best way to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. So download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. PrizePicks, run your game.
We're driven by the search for better. When it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't a search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy because you can avoid all that busy work. I use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to the other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey, leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day. Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockdown. Just go to Indeed.com/lockdown right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/lockdown. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed.
On tomorrow's show, we are going to preview the first game in the Southern road trip for the Flyers heading to Carolina. And it's Phantoms Tuesday. So we'll check in with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. There's some really interesting things going
Oh,
on
yeah.
there. Excited to get into that conversation. We'll have our mailbag on the Wednesday show. So get those questions in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or send us a message on any of our socials, or you can comment on our YouTube channel. So, Russ, I do want to talk about some positives from that shutout loss to the Bruins. I mentioned Emil Andre a little bit. Obviously, he's continuing to do good work out there. He's really showing out on the power play. He's not given as much support in terms of everybody else out there, and it's not working out, but at least his element of it, I think, is going well. And his defensive play has been pretty solid. And you can see him getting involved offensively as well.
Yeah, Andre, I like. I think his play continues to get better. I was talking to others in the press box, and I was like, it doesn't matter if Cam York comes back, he should stay in the lineup. And then everybody's like, well, what do you do? Well, first thing is obviously Eric Johnson's out. I mean,
Right.
that's the easy answer. And then even if other changes are made, I'm still leaving Emil Andre in there because he gives them something a lot of the other defensemen don't have. He has the best shot on the power play. He is good at moving the puck. His decision making has been fine. His physical play has picked up a little. And so, like, I
Yeah.
don't see a problem with it at all.
Me either. Bobby Brink, who had struggled for a little bit and was sat out of the lineup for several games, I think, he was very noticeable in this
Hmm.
game. He
He
was
was.
super involved, got net front, was trying to make, offensive plays. I really think that of anybody out there, like he stood out the most to me on the forward side.
He did. The only thing is I saw a little bit of old Bobby Brink, meaning pre-Flyers Bobby Brink, and he got hammered at least once. He's gotta watch that or he's not gonna make the season playing like this.
Right.
I think we want him to play like this, but he is a smaller guy and kinda has to watch it all game long. And I think there was a point where he took his eye off it. I don't remember if it was Zadorov or who it was that got him, but they got him.
Yeah. And then lastly, I think Sean Couturier, with everything, he is really working his tail off out
He
there.
is.
He's taking all those key face-offs. He is like, I think, taking more shots. I think that hat trick really spurred him on,
Sure.
and he's been taking more shots, and he's getting more shots on target. And really think his leadership is something that is showing out there in terms of his effort and compete level. I hate the word compete level. I think it's a weird descriptor for hockey, but for lack of a better term, I think his compete level is high.
Yeah, his leadership's great. I think he's doing a great job as captain. It's nice that he has had some good play where he could show this off. I think if the team gets to a point though where they're counting on him to score, then I think it's going to be a problem because I
Yeah,
just
he
feel
should
like
be a supplement.
he should be a supplemental guy, and that's where a lot of these other guys need to step up. He shouldn't. He's not the same. We all know that. So this isn't 80-point Sean Couturier anymore. So knowing that, yes, he's got to, he's trying to, get the others spurred on too. And it's a bit of a slog.
Right, and this is a good transition to our conversation about what John Tortorella had to say post-game and what he thinks the issue is, because related to Sean Couturier, he said, "I think Coots has worked his ass off in the middle of the ice. It just hasn't developed into, other than that one game, offense too." And, like, that's exactly what we just said,
Right.
right? That
Yeah.
so I do think Torts has it right with Sean Couturier's game,
Yeah. I
and
think
I
he's
think Torts
balancing it
respects
right.
his game.
Yes. I think he respects it and he's balancing it and he's not expecting too much offensively. And I think that's the right way.
Yeah, so let's talk about that offense and what Torres had to say. So he said, "I still don't think we're there offensively in the offensive zone first half of the game. Very rarely had a third guy high in the offensive zone with the 2D. Once we started doing that, we ended up with some opportunities." Do you think that was true in this
Yeah. I
game?
think there's some truth to that. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't necessarily think that the third guy has to be high in the offensive zone with the 2D. I think the third guy can come down and one person is behind the net and you have two people
Oh, I
kind
would
of,
love that, but then
you
he's
know,
gonna worry about them getting back on defense because he knows his goaltending's not what it used to be, and he wants them protecting the lead or protecting just keeping the score down, and that's a hard way to play, but that's how they're playing. He doesn't
right.
want to admit that part. That's the part. It's sapping some of the offense. He denies
Yeah.
that. He says, "Oh, no, 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 that doesn't have to be that way." But it is that way with these guys. It may not be that way with every team, but it's that way with these guys that we've seen.
Right, and that's where I see, is it worth taking the risk to have more goals against and maybe leave the goalies hung out to dry a little bit, telling them that that's what you're gonna do and let them take on some shots in order to push a little bit more offensively to get over this hump to score more.
Yeah, I think it's okay when one defenseman does it on a shift, but there was times that last year, and sure, things last year were working that aren't working now. But both defensemen would do that. You don't want to have to be in a situation where everybody's scrambling to get back to actually play defense. So you can't be overly aggressive like that unless you're down 2 goals in a game. But
Right.
do I think they should play a little bit more like they're down a goal in the game before it starts? Maybe,
Yeah.
because I'll just give you this example. It's a football one. Sometimes teams' offense stalls and it just doesn't look good, and a coach will say, "Just go into hurry up offense." And so all of a sudden they go into hurry up offense. They're not doing things they normally would do to kind of take their time, and sometimes that works. And I feel like, yeah, I think they need to be in more of a hurry up mode, like they're losing, rather than, hey, let's worry about defense first, because I think it gets in your head and
Right.
everybody's so worried about defense.
Right. And that's why, as long as you're communicating with the goaltenders and saying this is the plan, like just be
Right.
prepared for some extra
Well, I think
shots. But
Erson's fine with that. He's like, listen, I don't
yeah,
want too many
yeah.
blocks in
And I
front of
think
me.
Kolosov would be too,
Yeah, he
based on
seems
his
like he could
style of play.
handle the work.
Yeah.
I just think it's the um, teams are going to be trying a lot of stuff on him, and Boston definitely did that. And so
Right.
that's more of the worry. But I think the work part he could handle.
Right. So the other part of it with Torts is that he was really off on his scoring chances stats that he mentioned. He said, "Oh, I think it was 10-10 in scoring chances over the last 2 periods." No, it was 20-14 Bruins at 5-on-5 and 20-17 Bruins overall in the second and third combined. So was not as even as you thought it was, Torts. But as far as who he was, signaling and calling out, were Tyson Forster and Owen Tippett the right guys to call out? And on the other side, Joel Farabee finally getting some praise from
Right.
Torts.
Right.
And were your observations that these are the right people to be calling out in those ways?
I think it's fair to call out Tippett for the entirety, but I didn't think he had a bad game. He actually had some
Mhm.
hits. He did some things he doesn't normally do. And so even though he didn't score, I felt like Tippett was doing some other things. So I just felt like that was a little bit ill-timed, like almost like, hey, yeah, if you want to say for the whole season somehow, but I don't think it was that game. Um, Listen, Konechny's been off.
Yeah.
He's got to be scoring more. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
I
mean,
think
Tippett at least had 3 shots on goal in this game.
correct.
Konechny had 1.
Right.
So,
And Konechny,
there
there's
is
no
that.
mention of him. And so,
Right. Well,
and
you
I feel
can't. I just don't think you can.
you
I think
have
he
to.
knows.
You if you could mention
I
these guys,
know.
and Forster, he's right about. Like we've talked about it. I don't know what's going to correct that. I do know that he is very involved defensively, and maybe that's an issue because he feels like that's going to keep him in a lineup, and maybe he's right. But is it sapping some of his offense? Maybe because the team didn't have to rely on Forster last year. It was kind of like surprise offense. Well, now they have to rely on him, and he's still a young guy, and I think he's feeling that pressure. John, I think, is now realizing the team he has. Like, I think it's settling in. And I think now he is going to try and deal with the fact that they really are a rebuilding team now. They didn't act
Yeah.
like a rebuilding team last year, and he didn't act like a rebuilding coach. But I think he's having this sort of reset, like, because otherwise he would have a bigger fit about being the worst team in the conference. And he's not mentioning that at all, like that they're in the bottom spot. So I think there's a little bit of resignation about what's there. And I think he's trying to get them to play better and but I don't know if he has the same thoughts that he had last year. I don't think he does.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he feels about that. Yeah, the Islanders, even losing Barzal, are now back above the Flyers. So,
Yeah,
there
they
is
lost
that.
Barzell and they have Riley's out. They had to bring somebody else up for him. And Pellick has a jaw problem. They've lost a lot. So they definitely should not be ahead of them.
All right. We are going to come back and talk about the Jay Greenberg honoring in the press box and get your thoughts on that, Russ, since you were there, and talk about our nemesis of the week coming up next. Listen up, renters. Ever feel like you're stuck in this loop of rent payments, just watching your money vanish into thin air? I know I do as a renter. It's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. That's where Built Rewards comes in. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use those points to jet off on a dream vacation, put those points toward a flight or hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. You can also use the points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them toward future rent. It's all designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now when you join built.com/locked on. That's JOINBILT.com/locked on NHL. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Join built.com/locked on NHL to start earning points with your rent payments today.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, get 150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I would go with the Washington Commanders this week on a money line. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right, Russ. The Flyers did something truly wonderful and rededicated press row in honor of Jay Greenberg, who was a long time Flyers reporter. I saw like a picture of the photo wall
Yeah.
there. But how was it in the building in terms of the actual dedication?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, they showed his family and it was nice. And yeah, Jay was a sweet guy. I would run into Jay not only at Flyers games, but because he was with the New York Post. And we have to give Larry Brooks credit. Larry Brooks was there for his friend. And I think that's great. He doesn't live close. But I would also see Jay in New York. I would see him, if it was a Ranger game, I'd see him there. I even saw him at a Met game once. My only Met game that I covered as a member of the media. He was there. So Jay was everywhere. And I just thought, yeah, it's great. It's worthy. He, is a legendary guy.
Yeah, very, very cool to see them do that and excited to check it out the next time I am at the Wells Fargo Center. Turning to our nemesis of the week. Last week, I talked about, you want to have all the time in the world to celebrate a win, but when you have a back-to-back and you win the first game, you got to turn right around and you're in game mode and you don't really have time to bask in the glory of it. But I also talked about the Bruins, and it was a split decision on that front. So part of me says I'll take it, but at the cost of losing Sam Ersson, no, that loss was not enjoyable in any way. You talked about changing the dictionary with slang. We got into a good conversation about it. Let's flip it this time. What do you have as your nemesis of the week first?
So my nemesis is, how like a lot of places. Well, all right, I'm going to tell two things. I used to work in retail, so I'm going to try and help everybody now. You do need to shop early. So if they decide
You're talking holiday shopping?
just any shopping, but holiday shopping definitely. If they're saying we got Black Friday deals now, then you need to do them now. And I'll tell you why. I was with a company for a long time, and what they would do is the last 2 weeks before the holiday, they would raise their prices. They would raise them as high as they could normally raise them. Why? Because they're the last minute people. So if you're doing last minute shopping, not only are you doing yourself a disservice, but you're also going to pay more. Now, I understand if that's the way finances work for you. Hey, there's nothing you can do. But with online shopping, it's going to be like 87% this year, online shopping. That doesn't mean you don't go pick it up at the store, but everybody's going to do it online, right? The large majority. And I'm going to call out Amazon because at the beginning, Amazon used to be pretty much the lowest price and the best shipping. Well, they still have the best shipping, but they are no longer the lowest price. You have to really start shopping around and look, because if lowest price is what you're searching for, I would say it's 50-50 on the Amazon site. And I know we all get used to it because they have that great shipping and everything else, but you know what? When you're trying to get more gifts, price matters, and so be aware.
That is a good piece of advice. Mine, I think, obviously, this Southern road trip this week is the biggest thing looming over my head, especially with the goaltending situation, because
Yes.
you have games against Carolina, Tampa, and Florida, right? Ivan Fedotov has to check into one of those games, you would think. Which one do you pick, Russ? I think it's a tough decision here.
I I think he has to go in the next game against Tampa. I do.
Like
I
after Carolina, like the middle
Oh
game.
yeah, sorry, yeah. It's Carolina then Tampa. Yeah, I think he has to go into Tampa. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just, it's a tough call. It's a tough situation to
You have
throw
to
him in,
use him. You can't
but you
like
do.
yeah, you can't do it the other way.
Yeah. So that in combination with the Flyers' lack of ability to score goals right now, I think like scoring goals is my other nemesis of the week. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough week ahead for the Flyers. And I think, this will be a good way to see if they're up for the challenge. It'll be a good way to see if Tortorella's coaching can, in the lineups and what matchups he can finagle, even though he doesn't have last change. Like, how is he going to set this up strategically? It'll be a real interesting week for the Flyers, that's for sure.
Yeah, as an example, Carolina is just getting better right now. So that's
They
gonna be
are.
very, very hard.
And we will talk about that very thing on tomorrow's show, along with our check in with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. If you've got questions or Flyers thoughts, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky at R Miriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.